2, 1, and recording. This is what the original Cobblecast was supposed to be. The entire idea was proposed because my friend Brandon was like, "Hey, man, my friend's over at Cobble," and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And then we did 4 or 5 episodes, not with you, and the entire thing was kind of fake it till you make it. But everybody knows Dale Comstock finally back. He's been playing hard to get for the last month, going and hunting down looters in New Orleans or the hell you're doing, and author of American Badass, and Don the Pleb, who's going to narrate American Badass. Devin, who's a Marine who just got back, served and was you're at Kabul Airport, and then me, who has never served and am a total pussy. But if I surround myself with enough people that have served, maybe it kind of blurs the lines. But last time I had Dawn as my military translator to ask Devin sort of pertinent questions. But because Dale is at the apex of military, I wanted to know what Dale's thoughts were, or Dale, now that you have Devin right here, do you have any specific questions about, or is there any questions you can ask that the average listener like myself wouldn't necessarily think of?
Well, yeah, first one comes to mind, Devin. So what was your ROE? I'm always curious about the ROE, and so if I had to guess, my guess is this is what came down the chain of command. Your ROE is not to do a goddamn thing. Don't put any fucking live ammo on your weapons and just fucking stand there and be a visual deterrent. That's what I'm thinking probably happened, but correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Well, I guess that's partially right. Yeah, they definitely didn't want us getting too involved on actions, but I'm not going to say what I did. I followed most rules. Yeah, they just wanted us to make sure that nobody was coming in that didn't need to be coming in, and that was pretty much it. We weren't allowed to use any lethal force. That was reserved to the Afghan National Army that was there.
It's kind of what I figured. Defer to them. Yeah, that's pretty much. There's two things. There's the rules, and then there's what's right. So they put down the rules that most of us will call bullshit on, and then the rest of us do what's right. We lock and load anyways. And I've been down this road many times. If I got a second, I'll just jump in and give an example. So I was in a location one time where it was only around 15 of us Americans, and the bad guys knew we were there, and we were told to literally lock up all our weapons and ammunition. And of course, the guys that I was with, we disobeyed that. We kept our M4s underneath our mattresses. We kept our handguns on us, and we kept them loaded in spite of all the crap. And then funny thing is, we got to go home for Christmas vacation, and while we were gone, 2 terror cells had been, well, one of them had been compromised by the intel service. The second cell got away, but what they discovered at the cell locations is they literally had maps, photographs. They had complete layouts of the facility we were staying in, and they were actually practicing, preparing for a Christmas Eve attack. And we were gone. One, luckily for us there. 2, they compromised it before they could actually execute. And so upon returning, my first question was, well, so now we can go ahead and carry our weapons, right? And the answer was still the same. No weapons, no ammunition, lock them up. Of course, nobody obeyed that bullshit. And a lot of times it's civilians that are making these decisions. Civilians without a military background, politicians, people have never ever had to fight or defend their life, or anybody else's for that matter. These guys are paper tigers, and they put guys like us in harm's way to advance their political agendas, and at the expense of our blood and blood of our sons and daughters. And I have nothing but complete contempt for the United States government, the State Department, this asshole they call the president, and others for these very reasons. I've been to enough campaigns that I have seen us lose men for nothing. Somalia is a great example of that. Mogadishu, hell, Afghanistan. What do? We spent 20 years trying to get rid of Taliban just to give it back to Taliban and arm them, and give them lots of money. at the expense of what, a whole lot of lost lives. So there's my little tirade for the day.
You seen the videos coming out? Because go right on back to Cobblecast 1, and Dale and I were talking about this is not going to be 2001. Everybody's got a cell phone. You're going to find out what the Taliban is like in 4K, and it's going to be coming because they're, now it's not one guy with his video camera, and sure enough, I see a new one at most, or at absolute least every day. Every day there's a new video of somebody getting hung, burned, decapitated, something. And you should have known it was coming, but
well, we all knew it was coming. That's the thing, is the reality is everybody knows and knew it was coming. Yeah. Everybody knew it. Even though deniers up there knew it, they just, the deniers are liars. That's what it comes down to. And everybody knows it. And what happened immediately on the heels of this whole fucking, this whole goddamn disaster, this catastrophe, if you will, what happened? The sleight of hand started, the fucking, let's focus on COVID again. Let's put out a mandate, that all these people have to get vaccinated, because what the government is doing, they're playing off the people's fear. They know that Americans, particularly on the left, and the undereducated, the uneducated, even the educated are total fucking fools. They knew that fear would freaking persuade them and distract them for what's really going on, for a virus with a 99.9976% survivability rate. And so it's a sleight of hand movement. Unfortunately, the bigger issue is still out there, and that is the bigger threat to the world is not COVID, it's terrorism. And not only is it terrorism, it's the fact that we have lost face with the entire world, regardless of what Biden and fucking circle back Psaki says. We have lost face, and we are weak and ineptitude, full of ineptitude, and it's going to come back and haunt us worse than the COVID ever did.
There's a big problem being the guy who speaks quietly and carries a big stick, and then dropping the big stick. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what we did here, right? Is like, hey, look, be advised. The last thing on planet Earth you want is the American military coming to your country. I promise you don't want it. And then what do? We went, well, maybe we'll give you $100 million $billion worth of equipment and return your country to you. Oh, by the way, with a hit list of people that helped us. Maybe you do want Americans coming to your country.
And for the record, and we did this last time, we do have to clarify that Dawn, Dale, and myself are speaking for ourselves, and we're not jeopardizing Devin's still active military career.
Yeah.
Devin's his own spokesperson. But I was thinking, I mean, it sounds crazy, but I mean, it does seem like. It seems like a controlled demolition from the inside. I mean, mandatory vaccines in the military, and now calling for dishonorably discharging those who don't take it, including special forces, Navy SEALs. I mean, I can only imagine Delta's just going to do whatever the fuck they want because they produce guys like Dale. But I mean, it seems like a controlled demolition from the inside.
Well, yes.
Yuri Bezmenov, yeah,
right.
I mean,
I agree, man.
I mean,
years ago, I think I mentioned this in one of the other podcasts. So I'm good friends with Alan West, who's actually running for governor of Texas right now. And years ago, I met him by chance in Los Angeles. He had me on one of his shows. And about 6 months later, he invited me back to his show again, this time up in Washington, D.C. And he wanted to talk about the topic of women in combat arms. And so I went up there. I was happy to talk about it. And I gave my opinion on it. And he thought, what's going on here? Why do we have to have women in combat arms? Besides trying to placate, all the liberals out there and women. I said, this is my opinion. I told him back then, I said, the reason why is because if you look at combat arms, you look at the Marines, you look at Rangers, you look at infantry, you look at special forces, you look at SEALs, 99.99% of those guys in those ranks are conservatives. They're patriots. They believe in what America used to be and what it should be. And so those are your pipe hitters, man. And as long as those guys are staying, adherent to the Constitution and what is America, it's going to be hard to turn the military against it's civilians. Now you could argue, well, they'll turn, the support people, but the support people don't have the combat mindset or the skills or the training to do anything to anybody. But so my thought was, this was part of the agenda. And this was years ago, man. When I got on, I think maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And I told him, I said, this is the left attempt to diffuse, okay, and infuse liberal thought into what I thought was a conservative institution. Okay. And so if you can inject liberal thought by way of women, lesbians, gays, all this stuff, all right, that tend to be liberal, okay, what you're going to do is dilute the fighting capability of the organization. And I always use the analogy, imagine your squad is tasked to take out a bunker on top of a hill in combat, right? And the order comes down to take it out. And I can see where this would go. And this is just a little bit over the top, but this is just an example. I can see the next step is going to squad. Okay, men and women and everything in between. We're going to go and attack this bunker and take out the enemy. I can see the conversation after that. Sir, maybe we should send them an email first, and perhaps wait it out a little bit. Maybe they'll just give up on their own, or maybe we just leave and they'll leave the place and we come back and we take it. It starts to become a negotiation, right? Rather than you're starting 3 bags full, let's attack. And this is where the problem lies, and that is why that son of a bitch, General Miley, okay, overstepped his bounds. And when he called his counterpart, okay, he's got no counterpart in China, okay, but that's what he's arguing, that he was basically informing his counterpart that if we ever decide we're going to launch an attack, particularly a nuclear attack, that he would inform them ahead of time, right? That's way outside of his purview, and more importantly, he might say, well, it's expected and the right thing to do. Well, I can tell you it's not the right thing to do if your chain of command is not aware that you're going to do it and they're not aware that you did do it. And so he did bypass the chain of command and he became a rogue on his own. And by the way, this asshole thinks he's a conservative or pretends to be a conservative when he's far from that. This is a CRT, CRT supporter, a Marxist supporter. And the fact that he actually called, his Chinese counterpart and informed them that he would tell on our government if we were going to do an attack, that is nothing more than sedition and treason. That son of a bitch needs to be hung from the White House lawn and gutted in front of everybody, man. That guy is total garbage. But that's an example of what happens when you send liberals into the military. You get this kind of a breakdown in discipline and in good order, and we have degraded our fighting capability. And if everybody thinks that doesn't matter, you're sleeping at the wheel, because if you look at what's going on right now in Southeast Asia, the Chinese, while we're arguing about which tool the transgenders should use, okay, a target, the Chinese built the largest navy in the world, okay? Not only, and they are making their moves. In fact, I live in Indonesia, and so far I'm aware of at least 3 drone submarines that they have recovered from the Chinese that have run out of gas, batteries went dead or whatever, but basically rolled up on the beaches of Indonesia. 3 of them. So what do you think they're doing? They're mapping the waterways. For what? Ships and submarines. Okay. Why would they do that? Because they want the tactical advantage. They want to know their terrain before they initiate their assault, which is already underway, by the way.
They're openly talking about going after Taiwan now.
Exactly.
Openly.
Exactly. We said that last time, right? They've already said, we're coming for you, and we're going to eat your lunch. And in fact, what they've been doing, as I mentioned before, is they're literally dredging the ocean bottom for sand from around Taiwan. They have hundreds and thousands of barges been pulling sand away from around the Taiwanese coast and basically destroying their fishing grounds. And their agenda is to do 2 things. 1, starve them out. 2, take the sand away from them and build other islands, staging points throughout the southeast, through the Indochina Sea. So, I'll caveat with one more thing. I'll shut up. And so the Australians, I always laugh when the Australians get on social media and they downplay or they throw the Americans under the bus because what's the obsession with firearms? Why does everybody have to have a gun? Well, this was all the shit talking they did over a year ago, right? And guess what? They're standing there with their pants down, going, "Damn, we don't have guns. We don't have an effective Navy. We ain't got an effective military to do anything to the Chinese." And basically they're sitting ducks, and they're probably praying and hoping to God that the Americans, which by the way is not going to happen under Biden, will come to their aid when the time hits, when the shit hits the fan. If you're waiting on the Europeans ain't doing shit either. They're a bunch of neutered, individual groups, countries that have relied on the Americans for their protection. And on tangent on that is, everybody talks about socialism and how Norway and all these other countries have socialist programs that are successful. Well, if those little bitches had to pay for their own military and wasn't paying for ours, they wouldn't have those programs. So everybody's dependent on good old USA, which, by the way, good old USA, thanks to Biden, is turning into a third world country very rapidly. And we ain't coming to save anybody. And I will tell you, to all my veteran friends out there, and if you're not my veteran friend, that's okay. If you're in the military, I'm going to tell you, walk away. I used to never say that. I used to encourage people to go to the military. I'm saying run away, save your life, because you'll die for nothing. And you'll die fighting for Marxism. And you'll die at the knees of the communists, because they're going to kick our ass.
For legal disclaimer reasons, Devin disavows all of this.
Devin is a third-party spectator. Devin, what are your thoughts as we've just verbally assaulted you for the last 10 minutes?
No, I didn't verbally assault.
No, not you.
I support him, but
I know that. No, I know that. I mean, in general,
he's in a bad place, not by any doing of his own, but by this administration. They have literally flipped the script, and we went from this what I would think was the most powerful military in the world, which it is, to now one of the most benign, inert, neutered militaries in the world.
Devin?
So my recent application, might not want me to comment on most of his opinions, but I definitely see a change in the winds, the way the military is running and the way that the government's basically running the whole military. It definitely seems a little softer. That's pretty much all I can really say.
Well, I'll expand on that. So you're right. And I actually saw this happening in 2001, which is one of the reasons I got out. So this didn't just happen overnight. This was in process back in 2001. It started with, the stress cards in basic training. You can't yell at the guy. You got to hold the stress card. You got to shut your mouth and leave him alone. Then it went to, okay, you don't have to pass the PT test in basic training. When you get to your unit, your sergeant will get you in shape. Then it turned into, okay, I love these black berets on these Rangers, or these green berets on these special forces guys. I want everybody in the military to have a black beret, feel good about themselves. So take away the Rangers beret and put a black one on everybody's melon that didn't deserve it, but just to make them feel good. Then it turned into, guys don't need to pass the swim test to come to special forces. We know why that happened. And it just so happened I had a water team. And my argument was, I don't need some guy showing up at my door as my new soldier and he can't swim. And I have a water team that I might have to deploy tomorrow on a water operation somewhere around the world. I don't have time to teach him how to swim. And so I started seeing all these things coming, to include, I couldn't drop my soldiers for push-ups, for carrying an M4 in a privately owned vehicle. I had to make them go home and write an essay on accountability and responsibility. When this shit started, setting in 2001, that's when I threw the towel. I said, you guys can stick this shit in your ass, man. I was praying to God that when I left, that things would flip around and get better. But from all indications, it's just continuing to erode, including the infusion of liberal thought and women in combat arms to where we are today. The United States is in death throes, man. And I don't know how this is going to get flipped around. If we somehow take back the House and Senate next year and we get another fucking a hard-nosed, conservative in office in 2024, that's the only thing that's going to save us. Otherwise, we're done for good.
So I don't know how this has never occurred to me, because I know we have talked about, the slowing down of standards, or, the total elimination of them over time. The first and last thing you hear in Marine Corps boot camp, right? Well, you sit in receiving and you wait around for like a week. But once you actually get to boot camp, the drill instructors, whoever your receiving drill instructor is, he marches you in. Your drill instructors are there, and it's the boot camp scene straight out of Full Metal Jacket, right? They're all standing, a parade rest, and in fact, it's way more intense than Full Metal Jacket, honestly, because there's a bunch of them, and it's not just senior drill instructor. But the first thing you hear is, our mission is to turn you from civilians into physically fit, basically trained Marines, and we will accomplish that mission. And the last thing you hear at graduation is, we took your sons and daughters and we turned them from American civilians into physically fit, basically trained Marines. It's all they do. If you're not going to have them do that, what the fuck's the point of boot camp?
No, I mean, but then I kind of get confused, because then there's things like we're building nuclear subs for Australia now to deter China. And it's like, well, what exactly is going on? Like, is it all for naught? Is it all lost? Like, and it's the one thing I always just think of is, and this is just human nature. So, I mean, I'm just going to take the liberty and extrapolate it out to the military. Every generation thinks every subsequent generation is softer and less fit to do it. And it's accurate, but this has also been going on since the dawn of time, right? You know, you kids have it so easy. You have domesticated horses. You kids have it so easy. You have cars. You kids have it so easy. You have telephones. You kids have it so easy. You have the internet. And it is true. I mean, we are all, you know, weaker than the predecessors, yet humanity just continues to fumble forward and, you know, feel its way through space and time. And here we are. Is it all just, I mean, is this going on in every other nation? Is this every generation just more of a pussy than the last, but it all balances out? Or, as Dale said, are we in the death throes of the American empire?
Well, let me say the almighty phrase that is sum total guidance of living your life for the military: complacency kills.
Right.
And if you don't think we're the most complacent society that America has ever seen, go outside your house for 15 minutes on any day of the week and just stand at the nearest major street corner and watch the people. And that's all they're doing, right? Like, these people
goers out there,
right? These people don't know that there's a bus traveling at them at 70 miles an hour. And sometimes that's not some metaphorical example, right? You know, when I was a kid, you had to look both ways when you crossed the street. At this point, you don't even need to know there's a street. You know, you just keep walking. And that is the kind of mentality that carries over to everything, right? If you just don't care, if everything is just going to be fine, you know, it's just going to be taken care of, then, you know, Don hyperbolic mentioned Nazis. Ha, it's the internet. Well, look, that was a lot of people who went, you know, these communists are a real goddamn problem. They're stopping my complacency, and that is bothering me. They are hurting people in the streets. So the first guy to show up and go, hey, I'll stop them. Everybody went, sounds great. Do it. As long as you stop them so I can go back to not caring. And it turns out the guys who offer to do that are real dickheads.
I remember watching one of your old streams, Don, or maybe it was with me. Maybe they're all just blending together. I was watching you as some fucking douchebag that looks an awful lot like me. But I remember you saying, you're like, all in all throughout history, and you're like, this isn't condoning it, but it's right. It's right. It's isn't Hegelian dialectic. It's problem solution. And when you have, I mean, really just these screeching harpies of, you know, of we are bad, the capitalist man is oppressing. I mean, truly at its core, it's people going, man, I can't go to work because these fucking faggots are on the street waving rainbow flags telling me I'm evil. And like, I legitimately just got to get to my 9 a.m. shift at Home Depot. Well, what comes in is communists arise through complacency. And then a fascist comes in and kills all the communists. And then you have fascism. You're kind of sowing your own, right? You're kind of digging your own grave with this shit, because all someone has to do, try to come in with a fascist 30 years ago and it'd be like, no, you can't do that, because that is a disruption to your status quo. But now when you get censored for saying anything, when me being a white male with blue eyes is akin to being a baby raper, eventually someone does come in and they offer a solution that really maybe, you know, hey, Tommy, jump out of your second story apartment onto a trampoline. I'm good, bro. Kitchen's on fire. Doors shut. Tommy, jump at it. Fuck it. I'll hop on the trampoline. Right. When you make society so just at the very least, just unable to be complacent. I just want to play video game. You lack of getting banned on Red Dead Redemption. It controls what you can and cannot name your fictional character. because they don't want you to offend people. And it takes out all the fun names. You get some really creative spelling with different characters and stuff. But when it boils down to not the communists are in the street and they're fighting your no, when it's just like, dude, I just want to play Xbox and it's seeping into I just wanted to do a podcast and shoot the shit. And now I'm getting called a Nazi and I'm somehow getting tied into interviewing all these doctors. And I'm like, I don't even know how the fuck this happened. Well, then someone comes along and goes, hey man, heard you got a commie problem. And you go, fuck it, take it. I don't give a shit. Normally I would. Normally I'd say respect everyone's beliefs, but that's how it goes throughout history. That's not saying what I want. That's just what happens.
There is a pretty big, unironic, not joking around. There's a pretty big movement in the United States right now that is growing consistently. That is people who are just saying, you know what, fascism's fine. Just as long as you stop these freaking people. That's all that matters. I don't care if any other day of the week we would have said it was wrong for conservative president to walk in and tell Facebook, that's enough. No censoring the right, but censor the hell out of the left. Do it. Right. And that is not some exaggeration. The corporatist pairing of major corporations and the government is definitionally fascism.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
and it's growing, and it is popular, and to the point that major commentators in the political arena are proposing this. They are talking about how, well, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. That's not a good sign, right? That is the death of America. See this flag? See how it's upside down? It's not a joke, right? This is a serious problem. And I get it. Desperate times require desperate measures, Don. Okay. Just don't come to me in 2 years when it turns out this was a really bad idea. And I sat here telling you, stop doing this, stop now, and go, oh, it turns out you were right, which is, everybody's favorite game. Come back to me 2 years and go, oh, it turns out all that time I was calling you a conspiracy theorist and a crazy person. You might have been right.
Well, the thing is Dawn and I won't be here for anyone to come say you're right. We'll be face down, bleeding out into a gulag drain.
Hey, here's something that's maybe encouraging. So BLM, Black Lives Matter, the Marxist socialist movement are actually in New York protesting de Blasio's mass vaccine mandate, calling it racist, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, how ironic is that? The left is eating itself. The script got flipped, man. And so I think that's freaking beautiful. And I don't support BLM, not one bit. They are Marxist socialist fucking liars, man. They are scumbags, and they use their own people to further their political agenda and make themselves wealthy. That's a fact, okay? But the fact that they're up there now defending those 3 black girls that beat up the girl at the restaurant because they refused to put a mask on, I think it's just is irony. It's like, really? And now they're calling Blasio a racist, and because actually I think it's like only 16% blacks and Hispanics in New York are vaccinated. Okay, they learned their lesson in the past. Don't take the vaccine because it's an experimental drug, most likely.
Tuskegee.
Yeah, because exactly. So they're a little gun shy. And maybe they're actually a little bit smarter than most people. Going, why would I take a vaccine for a 99.9976% survivability rate? But nonetheless, you got de Blasio, a white guy, basically, mandating a vaccine card, limiting people's liberties and freedom. Show me your papers. Nazi Germany shit, and Black Lives Matter, the Marxist movement is actually pushing against the fascist movement, which I think is fucking funny, man.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious because it's hilarious because Devin is just playing the role of like a political candidate at a strip club. He's just like smiling and waiting. He's like, don't touch anyone, no dances, but I also can't say no. I can't be offensive. Devin's just like, how you do? Good to see you. Devin's
in the hopes of not getting Devin court-martialed tomorrow. There was indeed one question that I didn't get a whole lot of answers to, and the answer that I did get was, it happens over time, which is there anything else that we probably should have asked you that turned out to be important, that was a big deal but isn't in the usual line of questions? And now that it's been at least 5 minutes since I asked it last time, I'm gonna ask it again.
What? That was the most cryptic. What? I don't even know what you just said, Don.
Here for a second. So
Well,
we went through like a ton of stuff, right, last time around. And whenever it is, at least for me and basically everybody I know, when you do something in the military, like 6 months later or something, you're sitting around, you're like, wow, man, this one thing was like super important, right? And it turns out, like, I didn't think about it all the time, but as you sit and, you know, process through whatever it is that you did, it turns out that and by the way, this is where you get SOPs from, is like, it turns out that when I rolled through this town and there was nobody in there, that was like a really big sign, and we should have paid attention to that. And it tends to take some time, and you tend to not immediately know. And so when Devin was like, well, hey, I don't know, man, it basically happened yesterday. So
yeah.
Maybe, but I don't know. Well, now it didn't happen yesterday. It happened like 2 weeks ago. So
I got a question
Well,
for you, Devin. So the Marine colonel that basically just resigned and walked away because of that incident in Kabul. What do you think the consensus is on the enlisted side, enlisted ranks? What do they think of that? Are they fully supported this guy, freaking cheering him on, or what's the thought behind that? The general thought.
So personally, I haven't heard much of his message. I saw what was on social media here and there. So obviously it was probably very heavily censored, like we discussed earlier. But yeah, as in the enlisted side, I haven't seen much. I did just get back to the States probably 4 or 5 days ago. I haven't really left my room much. I'm just down here like chilling, but there is a lot of agreement. It seems like through some of my friends and stuff like that, that just the thought of how it was handled and all that stuff was just terrible.
Yeah. I think even Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder could have seen how fucked up that was, right? I mean, you and I could have planned a better, extraction than that. I mean, come on, a private right-out basic training come with a better withdrawal strategy, right? So, yeah, you don't pull out all your support, your helicopter, your fire support, and all your shit before you pull everybody else out.
Yeah.
And I actually did one of those kind of operations one time up in northern Afghanistan. So, without going into too many details, there was a fire base up there. There actually was 3 of them. One of them came under heavy attack, a lot of casualties, and the decision was made to pull out the other FOBs, the forward operating bases. These were small platoon-sized FOBs. I mean, literally 100 meters by 100 meters square, case on, man. They were in this valley between these mountains. They were getting hammered every day to the point where they were always engaged so much that they couldn't actually work towards the withdrawal. And me and my guys had to come in and run basically patrols around the base and just engage the bad guys for them, keep them distracted while we were bringing helicopters in to pull these guys out. And, and everything was done systematically. All the weapon systems stayed in place. They were manned while we withdrew all of these that needed to come out first, materials and equipment and things like that. And then the last things that went out were the soldiers. And then the last after them was my guys that were actually pulling security. That's kind of how you do a withdrawal. What happened over in Afghanistan? You got to wonder who organized that shit show, and was that delivered, or is that the level of incompetency that we have run into in the military now? Was that what we're churning out with these generals? That way, I got to laugh too. By the way, General Miley, for example, I want to punch that guy in the fucking mouth one day if I see him. But this guy's got his fucking uniform on with all these goddamn fucking ribbons and shit and CIB. What did that son of a bitch ever fucking do? How can you be a 4-star general? And what fucking combat did he ever see? First of all, here's the real deal, man. And for anybody that's listening out there, officers are managers in the military. All right, let's get that out right now. Okay, everybody thinks they're general custody or leaders. Hell no, they're fucking managers. The real leaders is the NCO chain of command, hands down. Fucking these guys are where these fucking CIBs, these fucking generals were in a fucking back room hiding behind a fucking computer, fucking pretending to be doing C2, C3 from there, while the fucking other guys were out there actually under CIB. So when I look at that fucking fake fucking soup stellar on his fucking chest, I want to go up there and just rip that shit off. But the only thing he deserves to wear is a fucking Army service ribbon. Said he fucking joined the military. That's it, because that's about all he really deserves. He's a fucking He's nothing but a fucking, a poser. Fuck that. He's a fucking poser, man. And he's up
So
there running this fucking shit show in Afghanistan. Oh, hell no. That's why people are fucking dead. Incompetency at the highest fucking level.
you want to know why he's got a CIB? Because boy, have I got a story to tell you. Like,
Yeah, tell us.
this is unironically true. When we were going into, I think when we were going into Afghanistan, one of the giant airfields.
Bagram?
No, the other one. But it's one that everybody knows, right? It is a giant airfield, and I just forget the name. But we're doing transit shit, right? Sea bag drag or duffel bag drag, right? You're waiting around, thumb and ass. Plane will be here in 2 hours, I swear. And way off in the distance, I hear pop. The fuck was that? And hundreds of meters off this base, a mortar landed, and they drove out MRABs, and they went to the impact site of the mortar, and they laser measured from the mortar to the edge of the base. And as they're doing this, we're standing there, we're talking to the Air Force guys and the Army guys that are on the base, and we're like, "What the fuck are you like? Are you like working on counter battery stuff? What are you doing?" And they went, "Oh, if a mortar lands within 500 meters of a base, everyone on the base gets a combat ribbon."
Jesus Christ.
Oh my goodness.
Now, at the same time, the Marine Corps standard for whether or not you got a combat action ribbon was whether or not you took and returned fire. Combat.
Weird how that works,
Right. And so I'm asking this guy, I'm like, you're screwing with me, right? And he goes, "No, it's this new order that came down." Now, you want to know how all these generals who were sitting in a fob behind 70 fucking HESCO barriers with their laptop typing away got all these combat ribbons? That's how.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It just makes me think of like the NFL with the chains, the big orange sticks. I just imagine some guys out there with like the rainbow flag and some like assless chaps, and they're like, "Congratulations, you guys are all battle hardened warriors today. You get a badge." Jesus, I mean by that definition, I've been around Dale shooting a gun. I should get a combat badge, right? I've been in proximity to
but
Dale.
Nobody was shooting at you. That's the difference now. Nobody's shooting at you.
I was next to you shooting a 50 cal. Technically, I think I was like an inch in front of you. Technically, I was farther ahead on the barrel, which to me says you could have been firing at me.
Look, I think that's Silver Star time.
I'm pretty sure that's Medal of Honor. Let's not fucking play humble here. But you're right. I mean, right? It's like that picture of like Eisenhower and all of his badges versus Millie, and it's like Eisenhower has like a barely noticeable like little
teeny stack.
And it's like, what did he do? The largest amphibious invasion in the history of the human species. 4-star general, commander in chief, built up the whole continuity of government, nuclear bunker system. It's that old thing, but
that's a big of a deal.
I want to go back because I wanted to touch on it earlier. Is what Dale was saying about BLM and vaccination rates, which is true. If anyone should be wary of the government handing out free jabs, it should be the Black community from the Tuskegee experiment. But not only that, it's kind of like the I guess it's par for the course, right? It's like the United States building all this, impregnable military weaponry and then leaving it behind. And now it's like, well, now they have the good shit. Yeah. They have done their best over the last, 4 to 8 years to turn BLM into this golden calf that cannot be scoffed at, cannot be looked at the wrong way. I mean, they are peaceful and they are, without sin. Well, now, if they're against something, they've ingrained it into the minds of everyone that, like, thou shalt not criticize them. So it is going to be really funny to see either how they have to change the programming of the NPCs or how this blows the fuck up in their faces. Because what happened, the precedent's been established that BLM's allowed to march and burn down cities. So if all of a sudden they are saying you're taking our jobs because we don't want to get this experimental vaccine, what is Biden going to have to send in the National Guard to fight against BLM? Like, I don't know.
So
I think the optics of that are just going to be beyond hilarious.
the answer is they don't talk about it, right? And then when they do, it's just overt changing of narrative.
Yeah.
And I will cite Believe All Women, right? Because for those of us who watched the Brett Kavanaugh thing, it was overtly every turn, believe all women, everyone, everywhere. If a woman says the sun is not going to rise tomorrow, then it will not rise. And if it does, it's because the sun is patriarchal. And on this goes, right? Until the left starts getting accused of sexual harassment. And then, and I'm not making this up, you can go find it right now, the New York Times itself prints a headline that says, believe all women was always a right-wing trap.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, bro, seriously? No one believes this, right? And then, sure enough, what do you find? You find all kinds of people. Well, I mean, we didn't actually mean believe all women. We just like, the credible ones. And I'm like, oh, the one who is overtly lying and gets called on it every 15 minutes. What's her bitch that was going after Kavanaugh? That one, we need to believe that credible woman. Shut the fuck up.
It seems like, though, like when the programming is so delicate that you can kind of fuck shit up with just like some simple, what is it, Koan, like those Japanese parables that are meant to awaken someone, like what is the sound of one hand clapping, it's supposed to break the mind free or something. But it's like when people were putting up those like flyers in that town back in like 2018, it just said Islam is right about women. but it didn't elaborate. It did not elaborate. And then all of a sudden there was this divide of, are they right about women? In which case that applies a whole lot, which goes against women's rights. Or are they not? And are you now an Islamophobe? And they're like interviewing people and they're like, it's very offensive. And I cannot tell you exactly why it is, but it is. And it's got to go. And it's like, well, are they or are they not? Is you just leave it open. Just go, Islam's right about women, correct? And it's, so you can almost kind of, if you try hard, you can create these little like cones, right? Believe all women. Like, you can kind of tie the knot or unloosen like the knot of like the Marxist programming. Just, just something like, I will believe all women. Well, does that include Nicki Minaj? Right. No, it doesn't. So all of a sudden you have to just sort of, you have to get to these, yeah, I don't know, Don.
Well, they're very skilled at this, right? We live in a world where a black guy from South Central ran for governor of California, and the news had the balls to call him a white supremacist.
Yeah. Versus the white guy running, the other white guy was like, you couldn't write him in a movie as like the evil white guy. Like
no
tall, handsome, slicked back hair, owns a vineyard. Like it's literally, it's like, it's the comically evil guy from like, Animal House or Old School or something. The guy with like the sweater. It's like, my father owns the school. And it's
literally Dr. Evil.
Versus the black guy from South Central is the racist. And it's like, well, hold the fuck on, right? Hold the fuck on. I don't know. I think if we,
by the way, my favorite little sign thing that went around is somebody printed out a bunch of those little posters and put them up all over some town. I forget where, but it was right around the time the Islam thing happened, like 6 months before. That just said it's okay to be white.
Oh yeah,
that was it. Just like it's all right. And they're out there interviewing people like, well, I think that's white supremacy. Like it's okay to be a white guy. It's white supremacy. Like, man, white supremacy has no bar.
There's another one kind of going around recently. It's the hats that just say I like America.
Yep.
Just nothing more than that. But in a way you could almost kind of, right? I mean, you could almost use that against them. You can kind of sort of tie these knots within their own minds, and it does kind of work. Don?
What?
Oh, I thought that you were looking like you were ready to say something. But right, I mean, how do you right? How do you go against this if black vaccination rates are so low and you're now stopping them from working? I mean, what is that? Do Black Lives not matter?
Yeah. Does black opinions not matter, right? Exactly. Do Black Lives not matter? Black opinions not matter. Yeah, that's why I think it's fucking funny, man. And as much as I fucking detest Black Lives Matter movement for what they are, I actually have to get behind him on this one because
Fuck
my
yeah.
the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? And so,
Well, I mean, at bare minimum, never interrupt the enemy when they're making a mistake. You know?
there you go, right? Exactly, man.
But I mean, it is brilliant in terms of like, two white guys get together with an American flag and they call a SWAT team. But if you're in BLM and you burn down a city, it's stunning and brave. You can kind of see it last week, right? When Nicki Minaj's supporters all got around like the CDC in Atlanta
Yeah.
and were like marching and protesting. Hey, I used to drive by that, not drive my mom when I was in middle school. It's like 2 miles from where I went to middle school. You drive by it it's a military installation. There's a fucking military it's not meant for just people to not go because it's trespassing. You physically cannot get in there because there and in Moscow are the only two places in the world with live samples of smallpox. It's a form of like mutually assured destruction. We both got the goods. You see them going there screaming like we're being lied to, we're being killed or we're being killed, and no one knows what to fucking do. You're not allowed to touch it. You're not allowed to touch it because you're racist.
So the Minaj supporters started putting stuff out on social media that were like, hey, Trump supporters, we might hate you every other day, but we know you hate these guys. So come on down and protest with us, and we'll put everything else aside because F them.
Nothing,
It's like,
nothing would be more insane than seeing a bunch of Proud Boys and BLM all marching against the vaccine.
Right.
I mean, that there may be hope yet. I mean, I think we need to bring up the question is, there are 4 vaccines. How many people of color were involved in inventing them? We don't know that. I mean, that's a very big talking point. We don't know who's Devin is just like, why the fuck did I come on? It's just Devin's playing Minesweeper with keeping his career right now.
Right. He's over there. He's like, I'm about to get a dishonorable discharge.
Devin's like, well, it was good. I got back to the US. I don't know, man.
No, he's exercised his American right, man, to sit out here and talk with other Americans about American fucking problems and world problems, And you're right, man. On one hand, I wouldn't surprise you the fucking military has lost their goddamn mind and would fucking punish him for exercising his, I get it. When you're in the military, you don't have the rights as everybody else, okay? And some will argue that, the military is socialist, okay? Well, and I hate when people always talk about socialism, like, these countries practice socialism, they have free education, they have this, they have that. There's a big difference between singular socialism, right, and fucking pluralistic socialism where everything's socialism is socialized. So, but I will argue that within the military at one point, culturally, I think the military is the best culture to live in, because as much as they try to paint it out as racist and this and that, I got to tell you, man, I was hard pressed now thinking back, where were, who were the racists and where was the racist ideology? It didn't exist there, man. It really didn't. And I feel like this is an attempt by the civilians, the politicians and all the race painters to actually discredit the military and make it look like a racist organization. And it's just an attempt to, again, destroy it, destroy the last bastion of sanity, the last bastion of honor, integrity, Americana, patriotism. It's the last stronghold, and they've penetrated it, Yeah. But so far, Devin, I don't think you said anything you got to worry about. My opinion, everybody else's opinion doesn't matter. What matters is your opinion, and you haven't said nothing or indicated anything. You never even supported us, which is fine. You're just along for the ride.
Dale's.
I'm not gonna say whether I support you or not, but
that's right.
I do enjoy it hearing you guys and
Dale's passively prodding your loyalty. You're like, you didn't say whether or not you supported us.
But you could.
But you could.
I could mention
you could go ahead and hang it all out there and risk everything. Come on, man.
Maybe after I get the new job, I'll be more inclined to share. But
man, so asked about Scheller earlier, which is that lieutenant colonel, right? The Marine lieutenant colonel that is
there you go.
About to be screwed. So that guy, I don't look. I get stand on principle. I get do the right thing, right? there is no, I will tell you the same thing that I have emailed this guy, which is to say, look, right now, you know damn good and well the Marine Corps owns you, right? There's no way that you've been in for 17 years and you don't know how the Marine Corps works. That you are property of the United States Marine Corps. You signed my contract numerous times to get here. You said what you said. Good. Congratulations. There is no reason for you to run your mouth so that they can throw you in the brig for 25 years. And if you insist on doing that, that is what's going to happen to you. And you know it, right? Well, I'm going to do what I want anyway. Okay. But you look, the last thing that I saw from him is I was handed an order that said I can't post on social media or have someone else post on social media for me. And I went, look, man, you can be upset about that, but regardless of whether it's right, I think we all know you are in for, disobeying a direct order from a commissioned officer. You are, and you know it. And it's a lawful order, whether you like it or not. And that's going to be break time. If they want to force it, that's what's going to happen. Equally speaking, that guy wrote up a charge sheet for a general as a lieutenant colonel. Look, should that charge sheet exist? Yeah. But, and he had talked to Jag, and Jag was like, what do you think would happen if a Lance Corporal wrote up a charge sheet for you? Is anyone going to read that? And I went, it's a good point. No one is, right? Corporal Schmuckatelli writing a charge sheet for a lieutenant colonel is not going to matter. And at least that's an NCO, right? Sergeant major is not going to be able to charge a lieutenant colonel. He can write the charge sheet for the colonel that's charging him. That's probably happening, but the colonel's charging him, whether you like it or not. That's how the military works. And you know this. Stop it. Stop actively trying to go to jail. So
I think on the other hand, though, we could say, just drop it, let it go, let it go, let it go. That's actually what everybody wants us to do, is drop and let it go and not pay attention. And that's why we're in trouble today, because a silent majority didn't say anything, didn't push back, didn't make any noise. And they thought somebody else will take care of this for them. And here we are. And so
important
colonel,
to say,
for example,
important to say, don't just drop it and let it go, right? But your capability to do anything while you are still under the command of the United States military is heavily limited. And it kind of should be, right? We should not have, what amounts to like, oh, hey, we're going to go divide the military and start fighting each other. Like, there's a reason these rules exist, and they're good ones. Now, whether or not it's about time to start shooting each other so the militaries can divide anyway, I don't know. But look, they already told you they're going to admin sep you. They already told you that they're forcing you out. So you can go, all right, hey guys, so I finished my admin sep. The United States Marine Corps took a guy with 17 years of fighting for this country and told him to pound sand. You'll be on Fox News in 15 minutes. You'll be on One American News Network in 16 minutes. You will be everywhere, and you will have the capability to be back in the fight. Yeah. But if you have them throw you in the brig, you won't.
Yeah. No, and that was my point, right? So you're right. But everybody needs to keep making noise. This guy, now that he's made this sacrifice, hopefully it's not for nothing. And when he does get out, he becomes, a thought leader, if you will, to get out there and motivate and start inspiring, and not converting the sheep. Okay, they're fucking dead. They're all brain dead. But basically, to summon the lions, man. That's what it takes. People need to see examples of courage, man. That's courage right there. For this guy to throw away everything, to stand on his principles, that's a noble thing to do. It's a hard thing for most people to do, but he did it. If we have more examples of that, I think what we're going to see eventually is you're going to see a groundswell of people that are going to do the same. They're going to follow suit. They're going to go ahead and grab their sacks and get up and start to stand their ground. In fact, I would say, let's stop standing our ground. Let's stop resisting. Let's start rebelling. Let's actually start pushing and punching back. That's where we need to go with this. And maybe a guy like that, will be the impetus for that. So far, we really haven't seen that, except for, I'll tell you, the one guy that in my mind exemplifies that. It's, what's the kid's name, man, that fucking shot those three dudes that night that came out and beat him up. Yeah, Rittenhouse. Okay, hey, that dude, all right, that guy is a little leader, man. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That guy had balls. And he got it on, man. And they're trying, of course, they're trying to crucify him, just like those two attorneys. They're trying to strip them of their, their license to practice law because they pulled guns to defend themselves. Which I thought they were fully well within their rights. But this is the left trying to destroy our heroes on the right. That's what they're trying to do, and we've got to support them and continue to back their play and push back, not resist, but push back. Tired of standing my ground. I'm not standing no more. I'm pushing back. And that's what it's going to take if we want to get, recover, recapture our country. Otherwise, the left is running away with it, and they're getting away with it, not because they have millions and millions of like-minded people that, are helping them. Actually, what they have is millions and millions and millions of people that are gullible. Even the educated are gullible, and they bought into the propaganda. I'll give you an example. And this is how bad it is. So today I saw on Twitter, somebody was not complaining, but here's the story. Basically, I'll summarize it. So my neighbor cooked me some lasagna because I knew we'd run out of money and, we didn't have enough food. And she cooked me lasagna and brought it over. But she used the word periscope. Well, I used my periscope and I saw her cooking in the kitchen without a mask on. So I politely accepted the food and I took it in the backyard and I lit it on fire and burned it up because I didn't want to get sick. And then we read the thread. It's funny how many people actually supported that. And one chick came on and said, I spray all my food from the grocery store with Lysol. Just, I'm like, okay, so you're spraying chemical agents that kill fucking living things on your fucking food and you're ingesting it. These are the people that are following the left. These are your Democrats. These are your liberals, man. These are the dumb masses that I always refer to. This is what's happening. And we got to fight these guys. And unfortunately, I would say there's only 5% of us out there that are, we say it used to be the 3%ers. I'll say it's 5% of us that are actually smarter than that. And it might come back down to 3% of us actually going to guns and fighting. But this is what we're dealing with, is this kind of lunacy, this poor education, this kind of propaganda. Hitler said it. He said, if you tell a lie enough times, eventually it becomes a truth. And then if you try to put the truth out there, nobody will believe it. It's cognitive dissonance, right? There's actually scientific studies that support that. And that's where we're at. These people have completely bought into this bullshit propaganda, all of it, at every level. And we're never going to convert them. Never. It's going to, and I always say there's only one thing that's going to turn this thing around. It's either the next election or next two elections is our only chance. If that doesn't happen, it's like the old saying goes, you can vote your way into communism, but you'll have to shoot your way out. I'm pretty sure we're on track for the shooting way out thing, hands down. So
I think one of the biggest issues too is social media, because the ignorant or whatever you want to call the stupid people out there, they all come together on social media, and it's just easy for them to have their opinions heard and validated on social media. And then it's the intelligent people that like try to say, hey, like this is wrong, and here's some actual facts. I'm not talking fact checkers, all right? I'm talking educated people out there saying like, hey, the sky is blue and these are the reasons why. And then everybody else is like, well, no, I want the sky to be purple. And then there's going to be more people out there. And those educated people are just like, you know what, this just isn't really worth my time. I'm not going to argue this shit. I'm just going to fucking leave.
That's a good point. Yeah. And by the way, Dale, I know you said you got to run at 3. So just if you need to pop out, go ahead. Not that you need my fucking permission, but you're I'm a Dale.
It is your show, sir.
Yeah. It's but
it is your show. It is your show, sir. But thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. But no, Devin, you're right. Right? It's not like a gymnasium full of people arguing this and you hear everyone. There is this weird, aside from the other weird kind of, deviation or I guess exceptional variable is you also don't know how many are bots. There could be one person saying the sky is green. If you're in an audience and he's saying the sky is green, then he has a bunch of mannequins next to him and he goes, and they all say the sky is green too. You just go, that's not a mentally well person. But if the only thing you're seeing, you don't even need deep fakes. If you're just looking at text like Reddit or Imgur or Facebook, if it's just generated text, I mean, you have no idea. There might be 2 people on there that are saying the sky is green, and then you've got copy paste, 40,000 bots. People will do screenshots all the time on Twitter, not retweets, different accounts saying, you know, I sure hate the unvaccinated. I went to pick up my cousin today from school, and I mean, down to the same comma, the same emojis, but not retweeted. I mean, actually posted by, I mean, thousands of different accounts, to the point where it's not 3 people, or maybe it was coordinated. You go, oh, these are bot armies. Well, now how much of this is an illusion? How much of this is right? Wasn't there some fort in the Revolutionary War or something where they were basically out of soldiers, and it was like 5 guys, and they're like, fuck, and they had this thing, and they knew on like the ramparts, they're like, I guess their thing was, you know, it's like every 10 men you had a guy standing there with like a whatever, like a flag of that colony or whatever, their god, I don't know. And they knew the British were approaching. So what, and then what everyone knew is right before a battle, though, you didn't stand up with your head over the rampart. Instead, you kind of post your head back down. But what you could do is just count the flags and go, well, there's a flag for every 10 guys. And it was always the case. These guys were like, fuck it, just put up flags. There was like 5 guys, and the guys approaching saw it, and they're like, well, there's like 300 strong in there. And they went the other way. That worked out. There's only like 5 guys in there. They're like, I can't fucking believe that worked. How many people out there right now are pushing these bot armies going, I can't believe people actually think this is, you know, this is what the masses believe. It might be that no one is believing this, and instead there are just bots parroting this. And on the other side, maybe that's not the case. It's probably a mixture of the two. Is Devin, you're right. It's not the gymnasium where it's, you know, the sky is green and some people are going, no, the sky's blue. It's this weird, never before seen in the history of man thing where there can be this big conversation and people can just go, they just read it and they don't even have to vocalize, hey, this is a stupid conversation, I'm leaving. And then you see that guy leave the room. Instead, it simply just looks like, huh. And it's just that. You don't know, you know, for every 10 people saying the sky is green, there could very well be 1,000 people going, it's fucking blue. But they don't say it's blue, I'm out of the conversation. They just look at it and just scroll. I'm ignoring it.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I interject a couple things, and I'm going to punch out. But so I followed some of these other guys, politicians, you know, like, I don't, you know, Ted Cruz, you can name any of them. And it's funny when you read, they'll post a comment, and all the comments are almost all leftist negative bullshit, right?
yeah.
And I always come on and go, congratulations, man. You know you're doing something right when you have an army of leftists on here freaking pushing back. And I said, you know, that means they're watching you. Yeah. And that means, you know, they're trying to persuade the rest of us that you're wrong, and trying to persuade you they're wrong. It means you're doing something right? With enemies, with success comes enemies. And so I get it. You're right. The whole bot thing. And I think that's actually a very viable argument because, listen, man, we know the Russians have been doing it, the Chinese have been doing it, the Iranians are doing it. There's a lot of people out there with, you know, doing the whole bot thing and fake profiles and shit. In the last probably 6 months, 7 months, I've had at least 4 Chinese women, okay, try to hit me up on Facebook, which is very unusual. In fact, I get very few women that actually follow me, mostly dudes, right? And last time I'm getting these hot Chinese chicks, all about the same age, around 28, 30, all mega rich, right? They're showing off all their cars. Oh, they all just happen to live in New York and Singapore, right? Or Paris, right? It's kind of weird shit. And then they start a conversation with me, and they ask me, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you mean what I do? I mean, you obviously became my friend on Facebook for a reason, so you must know something about me, you know? And it's not, it's a play, man. These are, I believe, honeypots, man. And I'm asking myself, why would they come to me and put the play on me, right? And they're not promising anything, but I can see how this, because that's not how professionals work, professional honeypots. They don't just come on to you and start filling out and stuff and, you know, putting a move on you. What they try to do is they try to come at you on an intellectual level at first, right? In this case, these girls are always talking about business, right? They're investors this and investors that and business that. That's how they start. And then I've actually had them go so far as to ask me for my WhatsApp number so we can chat more often on there, right? And it keeps growing. So then it finally progresses to, you know, the more intimate level, right? And then before you know it, you're like fucking Swalwell, right? He got duped by a honeypot. And next thing you know, you're fucking, you know, you're believing her bullshit, just like Colin Kaepernick, right? His fucking wife is a fucking hardcore fucking Muslim, and he bought into the whole fucking, you know, Black Lives Matter shit. It happens, man. And that's why, you know, intelligence services like the Russians and the Chinese, they use honeypots because they know man's greatest weakness is women, man. And so, what better way to get in a guy's head with the promise of pussy, and all this shit. And then before you know, they're talking, shit that you would normally think is stupid, senseless, crazy shit, communist shit. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I can kind of buy it. I can see that. Yeah, I can buy it. Before you know it, you're a flaming communist telling all your friends on social media why they should be communists like you. And see, it's all psychological warfare. It's exactly what's going on right now in our country. Why we've got everybody convinced that if you don't get a vaccine, you're gonna die from a virus at a 99.9976% survivability rate, right? Fucking seriously. But they got everybody convinced. That's how honeypots work. Social media does the same thing. So I know they're doing this kind of stuff, and I'm aware of that. Unfortunately, most people are not aware of that. They can't even think at that level because most people go to work every day, 8 to 5. They never left their fucking state. They have no idea that there's another world out here that's evil, man. And it's actively working to destroy our country, our way of life. The rest of the world is not our friends. Take it from a guy that's lived in or worked in over 90 countries, okay, around the world. And I can tell you, America was the greatest country in the world. I say was. And there are people out there that we think are our friends that would like to see us just fucking get smoked, man. They want to tear us down, And so
almost all the people that claim to be our friends, right? Look what happens anytime America runs into a problem, right? Europe is out there. Well, we've always known that America sucked. Like, oh, wait a minute, son of a bitch.
No, it's true. And so anyways, I concur with all that. And social media, is kind of like it's an evil tool that the government and politicians know how to manipulate. The news, the news cycle, all that stuff, it all works together. It's all propaganda. So I think the only way we can, fix that is we're going to have to, at the grassroots level, we're going to have to rise up, and there's going to have to be a real insurrection, man. It's going to have to play out, I think, because there's no way, if we want to keep this way of life that we had, there's no way we're going to keep it at the rate we're going. So with all that said, so I gotta actually punch out right now, but
let me tell you one story that I think you will appreciate right before you go. So a news article came out. I'm sure you caught all of the Haitians at the southern border, and that they're being released into the U.S. and they're on bases right now. So 2 or 3 days ago, I forget which, I think it's Fort Bliss, a female soldier is pressing charges, and there is an investigation because one of them, their immigrants that we just let into the U.S. and stuffed on a base, sexually assaulted her.
Called surprise sex.
This right here is these are the people that we need to pump into special forces. These are the people that we need to make grunts. I get the distinct impression if you rolled into an infantry unit and tried to sexually assault some dude, you're going to be in for a fight. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, to your point too, the thing with the horses and the bullshit whips, right? Look, as soon as I saw the picture, I already knew what that was. Those were split reins, right? I knew that. And I knew those weren't fucking whips. And of course, even when the facts were presented to Psaki, Trickleback Psaki, and fucking Biden, and they're still sticking to the story. It was whips, and people are gonna get fucking prosecuted. It's like this. They know it's a lie. They know it's a lie, but they know the dumb masses don't know it's a lie. And won't listen to it, right? And so that is where we're at. And unfortunately, our education system has failed this country, has failed, the generations of today, and the last 3 or 4 generations, if you will, has totally failed us because people just can't use critical thinking skills. Everybody's emotionally based. The logic, the rationalization, that shit's out the window. Nobody uses that no more. And here we are, man. And the other lie that they were perpetuating is, we sent all the Haitians back on aircraft. No, they didn't. They released some freaking ungodly amount into the country. They just keep bringing them back in, and releasing them without vaccine cards, without COVID. Who knows what kind of viruses they're bringing to us, and that's okay. That's okay.
It's some straight up Alexander Solzhenitsyn, right?
Yeah.
We knew they were lying. They knew we knew they were lying. We knew they knew. right? They were lying, but they lied anyway.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
all just went along with it, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
You
I'm
know,
not going along with it. In fact, I'm getting out of here.
all right.
So, anyways, man, hey, so thanks for having me on, and I look forward to the next show. And man, I always get fucking agitated when I get on this show, man.
I'm sorry, man.
I want to punch things, man, because it's good because it's a cathartic moment for me to get it all off my chest. For the rest of the day, I'll be pretty calm and pretty nice to most people.
Right.
I'm still waiting for some asshole to come up and challenge me about a vaccine or not wearing a face mask, man, because he's going to get a workout. Actually, I'll get the workout. You'll get carried out.
The wife says I have resting serial killer face, and this is why people don't bother me because at no point did I wear a mask. Right, I took one flight, which I generally don't do anyway. It was the only time I've worn a mask since all this started, and I don't get it. You walk through the store and just no one says anything. People get the hell out of the way. I say, yeah, there's a side benefit too. I smoke plenty. So I stand at the end of an aisle that's real busy and just go, and aisle clears out immediately. It's just like, I can't make it more than 5 feet in the door without getting harassed. Catch you later, Dale.
Godspeed, guys. Take care.
Godspeed, Dale.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's like what Tim Dillon said. He was like, I just started. He's like, when I cough now, I just say Wuhan. No, but yeah, man. No, I was. It might be that the red pill is that we're not allowed to ask. It's a weird thing, though, right? So BLM marching against vaccines because it's they're racist and they're stopping Black people from using. And I think that's kind of like a theme we need to push is like, oh, this is a dog whistle. White people don't want you in their stores, and that's what vaccine cards are. And it's white cards because they know only white people get the vaccine. I think if that gets pushed, and it seems like it's going that way, something beautiful is going to explode. And then it's also the whole Black people have to get vaccinated, but we don't have to get any illegal immigrants. They're simultaneously red pilling a traditional leftist BLM on illegal immigration and the unequal standards. I mean, we might be watching this like beautiful game unfold, and maybe not some top-down control system, but rather just this like phenomena of they've been doing the oppression Olympics for so long that eventually the Venn diagrams start to overlap and the system just cancels out, right?
So Yuri is instructive here. When that happens, a thing called normalization happens, right? Which normalization is one of those very Orwellian type words that means we roll in the tanks. And this is the kind of thing that last year, when they started putting up fencing around the Capitol building and deploying a ton of National Guard there, I went, this is a really bad sign.
Yeah.
And because that's what normalization is, right? Is no longer can we hash out any problems we have in society. Everything is polarized. You simply can't talk to your neighbor anymore. Everything must go to court. These are all well laid out in Bezmenov's talks, right? And so the end is either civil war or communism 100% of the time, according to him, right?
I'm having on tomorrow or Tuesday Kent Clisby, the author of Willing Accomplices, and it's all about Yuri's active measures, and I mean even farther back into like the 20s, and all the precepts of active measures and how these things are super powerful because unlike a chemical agent that runs out, these are more of like viral agents. They reproduce themselves. You only need to set them in motion, and then long after the agent that set it in motion is dead, it keeps going.
Still going, yeah.
And not only after they're dead, well, often the communists would call back their best agents and then execute them because your best agents are also the ones that are most competent and capable of overthrowing you, which is all the communists do is kill each other. But man, fuck, what was I going to say? Active measures. It's one thing that's got me thinking about just reading about all of this, right? The long march to the institution, the slow rolling. Have we not been doing active measures in other nations? Like why? I mean, we tend to view and I'm guilty of it the most, is we tend to view, the far left, the communists, as just, they have this perfected active measure system and it's the long march through the instant. Why aren't I mean, how do we not know that we're not doing it? How do we not know that we haven't had a decades-long active measures program in China? Or is it the very nature of active measures that it only works with like communism?
Well, one, it helps that it's communism that they're promoting, but two, it is worth noting that the people who design these strategies, right? Go look at what's that idiot, Bernie Sanders, and his the Marshall Plan. It was the greatest thing ever. What are you talking about? You're talking about what amounts to active measures with a slightly different bent. It is pro-America policy as opposed to pro-communist policy. And if at the same time you are creating a nation that can go out and do this, right? Go out to other countries and go, well, as long as you're pro-America, that's really all we care about. And then you turn America into a communist country. What did you do? You made the whole damn world communist, and you did it by taking a country that was naturally powerful for being what it was and turning that into what you wanted.
So the very nature of doing active measures is it's the antithesis of the free society.
It pretty much has to be, right?
Yeah.
And if you go in and all the anti-war junkies will happily tell you that we did this it's why we don't like Syria, right? Because Assad is not very interested in this game. And every time we try, he goes, that's nice, shut up and go away, right? And if you look at Afghanistan and Iraq, we got all the mullahs together, I think, at the beginning of Iraq, and we said, hey, who do you guys think should be president? And they put somebody up, and we went, yeah, that guy's not very friendly to America. No. So.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Dawn, and FYI, I can go for like an hour, 25 minutes, and then we gotta wrap this one up. Well, not still 25 minutes away. What do you think about the election audit shit on Friday?
I have been telling people from the very beginning, the audit does not matter.
I know, Don.
And
it's still fascinating. I know.
Well, so if you came
no, I don't think Trump is still in charge and Biden's a robot and they're all on Guantanamo. No, I understand Q, and no, I don't believe in it. Just at the face value, I think it's fascinating that it still went through. And it just still went through. I mean, it did kind of like we were talking about earlier of, you can control the consensus. Not only that, you can not only control the consensus through controlling bots, but you can also, that can manipulate actual people's consensus. I mean, one of the famous groupthink studies is where they have 10 people come into a room and sit at a desk, and, they drop the whatever veil, and there's two lines drawn, and one of them's clearly kind of curved, and they say which line is more straight, and 9 guys go, they point at the curved one, but the reality is 9 of them were in on it to say, hey, point at the curved one, we want to see what happens to this 10th guy who doesn't know that we're all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, he would go, yeah, no, that is the straight line, and it has the ability to manipulate people's thoughts. So, I mean, we don't know how many people looked at this on Friday. They don't broadcast that, hey, a lot of people that, a lot of classically liberal people are now questioning things because they're seeing Nicki Minaj get crucified and wondering why illegal immigrants don't need to be vaccinated. They don't broadcast that. Those thoughts go on. Sorry.
That is happening much more than the election audit is doing anything. And that is unto itself a bad sign, in my opinion, right? Because supposedly, right, and I know I can hear all the Don, but it's a republic, people. I got you, right? But go ask your average American; he'll tell you that we live in a democracy. Yes, he's an idiot. Okay, gotcha. Don't care. If your average America thinks that we live in thinks we live in a democracy and that his vote matters and that is how he is making sure the government is not coming back on him, and you are standing there waving paperwork in his face that says none of that is true, right? That should be one of those moments where, so we hit tyrannical government. Clearly, they're just doing whatever the hell they want. And all of this idea about whether or not we're voting doesn't matter, right? That should, stands to reason, be kind of a big line. But instead, what we get is the vast majority of news outlets are out there printing the recount, which is the thing that happened before the audit, the recount numbers that say, the audit proved that Joe Biden won by more than, what the official tally was. So, haha, you and your stupid audit, right? And if you go read the articles, they're very actively, purposefully written to not expressly say audit said these numbers, but that's the implication you get from reading them, right? Is, well, the audit said, right? And you know, the audit said the audit happened, right? Is generally more the way you get. And then it was, and these numbers came out of this investigation. Whoa, wait a minute. Those are not the same thing. Yes, those numbers were at some point said in that investigation. They were not the end result, right? And it's not even kind of close. The numbers that the audit is kicking out suggests that even if half of everything was just an accident, it wasn't fraud, it wasn't election fortification or any of that other bullshit, Biden probably lost by 20,000 votes. And that's a thing that, again, well, but the New York Times said the investigation produced, right? And all of these people who go, oh, well, the New York Times said, therefore, it doesn't matter what the audit said. And what is coming very clear as people keep going out and trying to go, oh, but you know, I've been following this audit since day one. You can go watch all, you know, go read all of these things that I've written, watch all these videos that I made, is everyone who already agreed that something shitty happened in the 2020 election, regardless of where they stood on that, went, yep, Arizona was fucked. That's it. These are the people you already agreed with. Nothing changed. Nicki Minaj, on the other hand, went, you can't question this. And I am a rap superstar. And everybody went, oh my God, my hero is getting torn down. So enjoy, you know, we don't care about important things and we do care about unimportant things. Don't get me wrong. Going after Nicki Minaj is important. Going after basically anybody's important. But that's not what we care about. Right. And go watch the people who support her. They will happily tell you how great they think Nicki Minaj is and how no one should ever be going after her, as though that's the defining line, and how they're emotionally invested in this person and blah, 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 on and on. And they go ask them about the audit. And they'll go, what audit? Who gives a shit? They're going after Nicki Minaj. That's not a healthy culture by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the one we have.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's kind of like, you know how they like took those soldiers from Iwo Jima and they had them like recreating the flag raising all across the United States to raise money for war bonds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think the fact that we were fighting the Nazis would have been enough, but no, it took a bunch of guys under bright lights and actors, right, and fireworks to raise. So I mean, I'm not that distraught about that because, you know, we look back at the greatest generation. The reason we look back on them so nobly is because they didn't have social media. There aren't graveyards of, you know, a bunch. That greatest generation were also probably pretty racist, right? You know, there's not a bunch of tweets from 1944 that's like, hey, maybe we should take a page out of Hitler's book. Like, we don't see that. We just see a black and white photo of them, you know, with their, you know, their class A's on. We go, oh, they're the greatest. So I'm not that disillusioned by it. And it's also, I'll take a win wherever, you know, I'll take a win wherever. If it's BLM protesting against vaccines instead of, you know, me interviewing the doctor who invented the motherfucking thing, I'll take the win. If it's me interviewing Robert Malone and getting banned for it and going, you see, and people go, yeah. But if it's a bunch of BLM people going, you know, this is keeping us from shopping, this is keeping us from getting jobs, you're keeping the black man down, I'll take it. I'll take the win.
One of those things that I spend a lot of time with, because I think we do this a lot, is don't count your wins as losses, right? And we do constantly. So make no mistake, if it is pissing people off enough to get up and do something, I'm happy to see it happen. However, this does not change my opinion in the slightest on whether or not you know, the recounts and the audits and the blah 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 are important. You know, by all means, BLM getting pissed off at the left is good. Yeah. And enjoy, right? Never, again, at bare minimum, never interrupt the enemy when they're making a mistake. Let them go. You know, that let them fight meme. That is the story of all of this, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, look, I do serious things all the time. And this is what I do, right? And people are like, well, you know, but what can I do about it besides I want to get, a new car next month? So meh. And this is the priority system. And so audits are all well and good. It might gin up the base. Maybe that is probably as good as we're going to get. Maybe we get some election integrity laws. If you think for a minute that the left is not 9 miles ahead of you, I highly suggest you go look into California elections, at least since the 90s, because they have been doing this there for over 30 years and nobody cares. Every couple of years, some new study comes out that says, oh, there's no election fraud in California, right? And you read the study and you go, did a guy hand write a ballot, like literally pull out a pen and draw the ballot and then fill that out for someone who doesn't exist and has never existed under any circumstance, fabricating a social security number from absolute ether, right? No, there was one ballot that did this. Like, well, okay, is that some sort of embodiment of whether or not there's actually election fraud if the most ridiculous thing you can come up with only happened once?
Yeah.
And there's a ton of these studies and they all work the same way. It's the most absurd shit you've ever heard of. And it's, out of 80 quadrillion ballots, we only found 2. Like, well, first of all, I would have said there was none given what you were looking for. Right.
That's true. I think it's, and I don't know what it is, but something's not disconcerting, at least curious as to how the fuck the MyPillow guy got all these packet images of like election software before, during, and after the election.
Well, leaks happen. Right?
Yeah.
And that's basically what you're looking at look, don't get me wrong. When it comes down to, okay, we're going to go rush that bunker, right? Then the Marine Corps is happy to just be like, all right, well, we'll put discussions aside for a moment. We're rushing the bunker. That's what we're doing. Get a bunch of Marines into garrison and start discussing whether or not you're going to change some basic SOP. And what you will find immediately is that you have 8 Marines and 40 opinions, right? And that's how it goes. And this is what we're looking at, right? Is the same sort of shtick, where there's not agreement. There's nothing.
Boomer Dawn.
Indeed. That's how I roll.
Devin, what'd you think of Dale?
Yeah, he very outspoken.
Dale's a passionate man.
Yeah, I saw that.
I love having Dale on here.
In the world of, I'm going to get an answer to this question. Did you figure out anything that was important yet?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking until you asked that. I was just kind of following the conversation, but trying to keep up. One of the biggest things, it ties into that lieutenant colonel as well. That's getting forced retired, discharged, admin steps. Is like the biggest question was what was happening, what was planning, like how was Kabul being, how are they processing these people before we even got there? Because like how did it go from we want to take all the American citizens out to all of a sudden the last like 2 weeks that we were there, like we need to get all the citizens out. And so the biggest thing is like what happened beforehand? Like before we got there, how were they doing this? And it was just weird to think about. Because whenever we got there, like I said in the previous podcast, I mentioned that we arrived and literally hours after we arrived, they breached the wall. And it's like, well, why did they do that now? Why weren't they doing that earlier? And I mean, we knew that we might be going to Kabul to work this months in advance. There was talks of it all the way up into hell, I left for deployment in February. And there was talks of, hey, we might be assisting in Afghanistan with this. So
Jesus, because
what tactical decision was made and said, hey, we got 2 weeks. Go do fucking America's work. Go do God's work, you know? I don't know.
That is
one thing that's one thing that I definitely.
It's a little hairy.
Yeah. And you look back, you know, fucking Vietnam and all those other times getting people on last minute. It's like, when does it sink in, you know?
Well, this is how you get to, was this intentional, right?
Yeah.
Specifically because it's not even a different guy. Biden was involved in pulling out of Vietnam. He knows what happened. Well, okay, maybe not, but still, hypothetically, he knows what happened, right? We should have some experience in this. Certainly, generals should know what happened when we pulled out of Vietnam. You know, whether or not they were there, because, you know, 50 years is a long time. At 40, they kind of get rid of you. So probably not the same guys. But, you know, I don't know exactly how long Millie's been in, but I am certain it's in the, you know, over 25 vicinity. So he has to have been around 4 Vietnam guys getting out, has to have heard of what has gone on, even if it was when he was a young lieutenant. We have to know. There is no possible way we don't, you know, institutionally. No, I mean, and I tell the Marine Corps is different about this than everybody else, but everybody knows, right? You know, in Haiti, we did this. In, you know, Vietnam, in Korea, in World War I, in World War II. At private entering the Marine Corps level, you are discussing tactical failures of prior wars. Everybody knows, right?
Yeah. And whenever you go to boot camp, you know, they teach you history. A lot of people probably don't know this, but like, yeah, you're getting slayed. You know, you're not getting a lot of sleep. You're doing a lot of body
conditioning.
Yeah, just absolutely draining every inch of fucking energy out of your body. But they also teach you a little bit of science. You know, not too much. If you ask me any kind of science question, I'd be like, I don't fucking know, man. But they teach you history. And the biggest thing is, I remember, it always stuck with me. It's like, you look at your failures and you look at your successes, and then you compare them. And that's how you progress through war. Because like for Fallujah and all the Middle East actions that we've been involved in, IEDs is a big example, right? The enemy realized how we enter doorways. They're like, okay, this is how they're doing it. Well, now we're going to change this, and they're going to start doing it, and eventually they'll catch on. But, you know, we're going to take out a lot of lives that way. And then we said, hey, this is fucked up. So we're losing a lot of lives this way. Let's change it, and then keep them guessing. But it just seems like that isn't being remembered whenever we're trying to leave a country at the end of a war. That's just
stops being war fighting, right? This was oh boy, in the world of, I'm going to piss off a bunch of your chain of command if they ever see this. This was a problem I had in the Marine Corps. Is you start deployment spin up, right? And at that exact moment, the Marine Corps changes a lot. You know, when you're sitting in garrison, it's, you know, like, well, have we pulled out all of the gear and inspected it for the 6th time this day? And you're like, no, shut up. That's not happening. And then some officer orders you to do it, and you do it anyway. But once you get into Marine Corps warfighter time, it's okay. So we need to PMCS this shit as often as necessary to make sure that it's still working. And for, you know, the PMCS is basically just go through it all and make sure it's clean and functional, right? And all of a sudden, all the games go away, right? And as soon as you get back, it's ridiculous games over and over and over again. Like, you know, you're out there in 29 Palms, and you're, you know, running through dirt, sand horribleness, and you're out there for the 5th day with like no sleep, and no one asks you how your shave is doing, right? That's not happening. It's just you can't have a beard, but after that we kind of get it. You're stuck in the middle of a war fighting scenario.
Yeah.
You're busy. We get it. And then you get back from the deployment, and sure enough, there is some NCO sitting there at the end of the day, like, I need you to look up, okay, and then to the right, okay, dude, I know how to shave. Shut up and leave me alone, right? And this is the two very different kinds of Marine Corps. Garrison Marine Corps is absolutely terrible. And when we start pulling out of a country, we get out of warfighter mode. We go, well, it's over. I don't need to teach guys to breach doors. I don't need to teach guys, that the last guy in the stack absolutely needs to be looking over his shoulder on a very regular basis, right? And the attention to detail moves away from this will save your life to, well, if you missed one hair while shaving, that means that you're going to get everyone killed because you have no attention to detail. And while attention to detail is important, there is no Marine ever who has gotten that speech who went, yeah, that's totally comparable. I get it now. Right?
Yeah. My first time I went to Afghanistan, so Marine Corps boots that you're authorized to wear in uniform has to have the Eagle Globe and Anchor on the boot, right? So we're like, okay, cool. If it's starting to fade, you get new boots. If it's worn out, you get new boots. And the first time I was in Afghanistan, we're in Bagram. It's a Air Force base with Army all over the place. Army's fucking everywhere. Yeah, and there's only 60 Marines on the base at that time. And so we're there for the 7 months. And well, if you're out there doing combat patrols, trudging through the sand and mud and all that, all other bullshit, fucking your boots get worn out and well, you need new boots. Well, I'm sorry, but an Air Force base isn't going to spend the money to get Marine Corps official boots that you're authorized to wear in uniform. And so in garrison, I'm going to be getting yelled at. It's like, why is your shoelaces a certain way? Why is your Eagle Globe and Anchor faded? Like half of it's missing, blah, blah, blah.
Left over right, right over left, devil dog.
Yep. And then we're out here in Afghanistan and we're like, hey, we're kind of running out of boots. Like, what the fuck do we do? The general that came and visited is just like, fuck it, go buy whatever the hell's in the fucking PX. I don't give a shit. And we're like, all right, mission accomplishment. And that's the biggest thing. And so we got Marines out there wearing Oakley boots,
Yeah.
Bullshit. Fucking Jordan combat boots, and then
Kevlar Yeezys.
Yeah. And then like tying in with the Lieutenant Colonel that we talked about earlier is he's standing up for the things that were done wrong, right? He says he wants accountability held. And that was the biggest thing. It's like we didn't learn from previous, Vietnam fucking pulling out last second. And all of a sudden, nobody stood up. Nobody took that opportunity. And here's a really good example. They're trying to get him out. Yeah, okay, maybe there's certain procedures he should have done differently. Posting it all over social media. I got fucking paperwork that says I'm not allowed to even be posting on social media in regards to like Marine Corps stuff. Like saying, hey, like I hate the Marine Corps. I don't. I very much love the Marine Corps. Just saying. But if I were to go post on social media something that is berating the military, berating the government, berating the thing, like I get in trouble for that. And so whenever he posted on there, yes, okay, now he's officially getting in trouble. Everybody in the military is like, okay, yeah, that's why he's getting in trouble. He's not getting in trouble for certain other things. He's getting in trouble because he kind of did it over social media. But the view is, if we all see somebody getting kicked out because they're voicing their opinion, knowing that, hey, y'all fucked up, and I want to see people held accountable, it's kind of like, well, now I don't want to do that because I don't want to get kicked out. I like my career. I like getting paid. I like having a steady paycheck. So I'm not going to risk that by going out and saying, these people need to be held accountable because they knew that what we were getting ourselves into was poorly planned, and all these changes, like all this stuff could have been so much different, but because we had the plan and we didn't execute it until last minute because we were waiting on this, we didn't want to put pressure on people above us because they could ruin our career.
So this is, again, I don't know how their branches are. I'm sure that they all have some similar point, but one of those first things you get taught in the world of why the Marine Corps stays tight is because everybody corrects everybody. Those are the rules,
Yep.
right? If there's a general who's fucked up from the floor up, like maybe you shouldn't knife hand him and be like, hey, sir, motherfucker. But like, hey, sir, there's a thing on your uniform and like, cool. Thank you for taking care of it. Now we all look better, right? And this is the story of the Marine Corps. And yes, it gets taken entirely out of hand. Yes, you do get dumb privates who like to walk by and be like, hey, Colonel, right? And like, okay, you dumb bitch. That's not how that works, right? On the other hand, that's what this guy's doing. And regardless of where he is now, where he started out was, hey, accountability needs to be had. We should be correcting ourselves. This is the kind of thing that makes us the Marine Corps. And he was balls on. And the answer was, fuck you. And everybody ever went, wait a minute.
Yeah,
it's rough.
Yeah. So for anybody that, hasn't been in the military, doesn't, at least not in the Marine Corps, I know after working with some Air Force, I got to learn how they do their stuff. But we have evaluations that we have to write. And one of the things is courage, right? You get evaluated on your courage. And so one of the things is not necessarily courage in the heat of battle. Marines, we're not always in battle, like we're in garrison. And so how do you express courage in garrison? It's calling out the people above you saying, hey, this is fucked up and maybe we should fix this. Like you said, you're not going straight up and like, listen here, fucking lieutenant, this is how you're fucked up. No, you go. So you like pull them aside. I mean, I've done it several times. You pull them aside and say, hey, you're not doing it in front of your fucking lowers because that's going to put a bad image. Like the people above you is supposed to be this fucking perfect military personnel, which we're all not perfect, but you got to give that perception, and you pull them off to the side and say, hey, here's the problem. Here are some solutions. I recommend that you choose from these, but whatever you decide is what we're going to fucking do. Right or wrong, at least I'm taking the time to call you out and present options. And I feel like that wasn't necessarily done whenever we decided that we were going to Afghanistan.
Yeah. It's funny because this is the kind of thing where I don't think people who weren't Marines get how important this is, right? Because it's the kind of thing that keeps, like, it's real small. It's not like, well, yeah, but like you're still able to kill people, right? Like, well, yeah, but you do that better. You do that with a tighter group of guys. You do that with guys who create the stories that have made the Marine Corps what it is. Going through boot camp, and it's you've got the drill instructors there yelling at fucking brand new guys who have never been in any part of the Marine Corps and like, oh, you're just going to give up. I've seen Marines who were standing on a machine gun, taking fire, ripping the flesh off their legs, and they kept going because they passed out from blood loss. But you just give up, right? That story is going away if it's not, let's keep getting hard. Let's keep getting better, right? All those people, they're going to be gone. Because now it's soft, it's easy, it doesn't matter anymore, and that is a big deal. And I know, Don, you sound like you're doing the shaving story thing all over again. No, right? That for those who have never done it, when you go do tactical training, there's a guy basically with his thumb up your ass being like, okay, so you're doing this slightly wrong, and this slightly wrong, that gets your shoulder out. That slightly wrong is how you catch a bullet in the face. Don't be doing it slightly wrong. Do it right. And you know what? It saves lives, hands down, 100% of the time.
Yeah. And so the whole getting softer thing too. So in boot camp, Obviously, it's changing. Biggest noticeable change that you could have seen on social media has been the Navy, not the Navy, the Army shark attack.
Oh yeah, it's now gone.
That always cracks me up. Yeah, that always cracks me up. I always got opinions about that, but I'm not going to express them here on here.
Well, let me express a couple on your behalf, right? Because there's a really popular video of Marine Corps boot camp, and it's recorded from like a shelf somewhere, and it's a guy standing fire watch, and every Marine ever looks at that and goes, stack wall lockers, dude standing there. One drill instructor walks in, and then the yelling starts, and then just a whole bunch of them show up from nowhere. And we all go, I've been that guy.
I've seen that. I've done that. I lived that,
Right.
And one of the things that we did was the drill movement where you right shoulder arms. You got your rifle leaning against you. You got to hold your elbow at 90 degrees and 1 point of black, on the rifle and all that stuff. Well, if your elbow is sticking out too far, it's going to get smacked, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not going to say what it was smacked with, but your elbow's getting smacked. Eventually, it hurts. It fucking hurts. And you're like, I need to stop doing this. And then the biggest thing that they, especially in boot camp, they say, you don't know when this will be relevant, but it will be.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? You're in that firefight.
Always is.
Always. You're in that firefight, and guess what? Your elbow's not sticking out because you've got fucking hit so many times that it hurts. So you're keeping it tight and you're going around that corner. And guess what? The only thing that enemy sees is your eye that you're aiming down with and your fucking rifle and maybe like the outer part of your shoulder. But that elbow is not sticking out. And it's funny is you're going to hear in the future, people are going to get their fucking elbows clipped. Why? Because it's too dangerous. It's too violent to hit somebody's elbow whenever it's sticking out the wrong way. And,
what's extra funny about that is if in the world of things, only Marine things, if your elbow is tucked into the side of you and they come by and then bam, right? It doesn't bother you at all. Like literally not. But if it's all sticking out here, wham, right? Oh God, I'm uncomfortable everywhere.
And then that's, and it also ties in with social media. Social media is taking control of a lot of things, and whenever social media started getting integrated in the military, that's whenever people were like, the Marine Corps is violent. It hasn't changed much in the violence of people until social media came out. We always hear stories of the old Corps, and somebody somewhere saw something they didn't like on social media that the military is doing. And I'll just use an example of getting your elbow hit because it's sticking out. Somebody's going to see that and they're like, that's too violent. That's abuse on blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but at least I learned that I didn't get my elbow shot off. And like Tom was saying, it's those bots, right? And it probably majority of the time, it's not even American people that are having these issues. It's some other country.
There's a bunch of studies on this. It is generally speaking, at most 8% of America that gets upset about this kind of crap, which is basically nobody. Right?
Yeah. But yeah, it's because whenever I was stationed in Okinawa, it was the Chinese that would send over protesters. And next, the same thing, people are going to see fucking Joe Schmo is posting about this. Well, guess what? Joe Schmo may look like some dude from America or whatever, but really it's some Russian, some Chinese dude using this account. You just got catfished into thinking that their opinion matters and that they're going to make a change. And then that person has 12 accounts and they're all doing that. And then eventually, enough people see it and it's going to start affecting how everybody else sees their opinions. And it's going to be.
So a strangely personal example that I have with this sort of is that a little while ago, I stumbled onto a colonel. I want to say he was a colonel who had some social media account who was talking all kind of shit about the military and civilians are pieces of shit and blah blah blah. And so I looked up the name, and there's like 20 accounts with this guy's name, and I went, okay, there is no one who is actually doing this. So I pulled up his command, and I called and I said, hey, I'm pretty sure this isn't this guy. And some major answered and was like, nope, he doesn't have social media accounts. Like I was at his house for dinner last week. He doesn't have social media accounts. I went, I figured you guys are going to want to know this. And he said, yeah, strangely, for some reason, somebody picked up his name quite a while back, and this happens a lot. And I said, well, here's a list of accounts. I assume you guys have ways to, contact various support agencies. And he said, thank you. This is a serious problem. We have it a lot. And seriously, nothing but you guys calling in or that sort of thing. We find out because some sergeant walks in and is like, hey, sir, did you know you have a social media account that says you hate America? And he's, no, what? And this isn't just an extension of how bad this is, right? So easily half of all these, but he's a colonel who has been in charge of special forces and he hates America. They're all bullshit, right? Yeah. And if you don't believe it, call the commands, find out, because I promise you the response you're going to get is, please send me the accounts. We need to get rid of these things. They just never stop. So,
yeah.
Hey, to butt in, I got to wrap this one up. I got to bounce out. I got another guy in 5 minutes because I'm a workaholic who will only be happy when I'm dead. So I'd say that jokingly. I'm not depressed, but Devin, thanks for coming on, man. Don, thanks for showing your big sexy face.
That's how I roll.
And Dale, wherever you are, doing whatever, fighting God knows what. Dale's gonna live till he's 107.
Yeah.
Dale's gonna
probably shoot somebody on the day that he dies too. Absolutely. Dale will have an actual dead man switch.
Thermite in his home. But all right, I gotta wrap this one up.
Well, thanks again for having me, man.
Shut up, Don.
I don't know how much of Kabul we talked about, but I think enough.
Oh yeah, we got into a little bit of Kabul very quickly. Yeah. As soon as Dale's like a lawnmower or like a leaf blower, you just gotta keep tugging on it. You're like, come on, Dale. You can see him kind of wake up, and then it's and you're like, there we go. And you just kind of sit back and like feel the fire. There we go. It's going. But all right, guys. Thank you very much for coming on here, Devin. Don,
thank you for having me.
Stay sexy.
I will do what I can.
Black Lives Matter. Don't take the vaccine.